Hey, everybody, let's go racing. I am Zach. Thank you for joining. Last year, I uh, I got pretty consistent there for a stretch, and then sort of just dropped off. Had a brand new baby, which is awesome. I had family over a good bit for a while, and sort of just threw off my rhythm. And so this year, my goal is to be more consistent, and I want to have content for every single race that comes out, and maybe some extra stuff along the way. So it's beginning of the 2023 race year. It is Daytona week. We had the Clash 2 weeks ago, and I've got some predictions for this year. And I just want to touch on a few things. And then, man, I just can't wait for the racing and racing activities to start. Number one, we had the Clash at the Coliseum the second year. Thought it thought it was positive for the most part, but we had some timing issues. And what I mean by that is multiple things. Number one, I enjoyed everything. I enjoyed the heat races. I enjoyed qualifying. I enjoyed the last chance races. What I think needs to happen is that those qualifying, practice, and heat races all need to happen on one day. And maybe the last chance races and the main event need to happen on another day. That way you get 2 full days of just action at the track. And NASCAR needs to do a better job of making sure people know that when they get a ticket to this event, that it's more than just the main event. Come and hang out for the heat races because they were a blast to watch. Almost more. I'll go ahead and say it. I thought they were more fun than the main event. So just redo the format. Keep the pieces of the format. Just spread them out in a way that gives you more chunks of time on two separate days. That being said, the race was very, very good, except for at one point we did like 10 laps in an hour, and that's not okay. That really killed the momentum, really killed some viewership, I'm sure, of the race. So they just got to do a better job of figuring out what to do with these cautions. I get it, you got to throw caution. Don't take 5, 6 laps, 7 laps getting people lined back up. It doesn't take that long. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Get them lined back up and get that race going fast, 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 fast. But yeah, it was fun, but it could have been much better. And I just hope they do at least one more year. And I hope they just make some nice tweaks and figure out what to do with those cautions because it that really messed up the race a little bit. I've got some predictions. Way too soon, way too early predictions of my playoff drivers. Who do I think is going to make the playoffs? And some of these I think are pretty locked in. Like I can't foresee some of these people not making it. Some of these I'm sort of I don't know. I don't know if they're going to make it. I think they're going to make it, but there's like a 10 or 12 people who are transient who could make it. I can see them making it, and I could also see them not making it. So I'm going to give you my list, my list of playoff drivers, and I'm going to give you some bonus drivers that I think sort of might sneak their way in and knock some of our my list out here. Number one, I think all four Hendrick drivers will make it in. I think they'll get their wins. Um, I think Larson and Elliott will have pretty similar years to last year, which is to say, pretty good years, multiple wins. Uh, I think I think Brian will have a very, very good year. There's a chance he has a spectacular year. Right, I think he might be on the cusp of reaching sort of a prime in his racing life. And Bowman, it's a career year for him. It always is. It seems like, and he has some new people on his team, new direction there. If they find some consistent speed, they'll make it no problem. But I will say he's one of the ones I can see having a pretty subpar year and missing out. And then we've got some questions for the offseason for him. So all four Hendrick drivers, Denny Hamlin, I think he's a lock. Martin Truex Jr. I think he's a lock. I know last year didn't win, but he has some bad luck. He had some chances to do some stuff in some races, and it just didn't work out. I think that changes this year, and they can string together some wins, right? Christopher Bell, I think, had a great year last year. And I think he'll have another very solid year this year. Joey Logano, I don't think there's a way he's going to miss the playoffs. Ryan Blaney, again, last year, him and his team shot himself in the foot a couple of times. But I think, they have the right equipment. He's a very good driver, and I think they'll make it this year. Kevin Harvick, uh, obviously, it took them a little bit to get going last year, but what I have seen at the latter half of the season for him after his 2 wins and going into this year and at the Clash is that he sort of figured out this car a little bit. And I don't think you're going to see the same sort of prolonged struggle that you saw last year with him. Now, here's a surprise. Eric Jones. I think Eric Jones is going to provide us with a very, very good feel good story for Legacy Motorsports. And I just think he showed some consistency last year. They got that win at Darlington. And I just think they're going to have a good year. AJ Allmendinger, I think he's going to have a consistent year. Lots of top 15s, really, I think, for him. Lots of top 20s and sprinkle in some top 10s in there. But more importantly, we've got so many road courses now. I think he's going to put himself in a position for a win or multiple wins on top of just doing just a good job in all the different types of tracks. Ross Chastain, we got sort of year 2 of his experience with Trackhouse. Last year was fantastic for him. Here's what I think. I think this year will be worse statistically for him as far as average finishing position, but I think he might actually get more wins this year with his aggression. So worse average finish, potentially more wins, the playoffs. I think Tyler Reddick is going to make the playoffs first year with 23-11. I think he's obviously very talented young driver. He's with this brand new team that has shown speed at times with Kurt Busch and Bubba Wallace. So I fully expect him to do well and to put himself in a position to get a win and just to finish really well. And Kyle Busch, the person who replaces Tyler Reddick at Richard Childress Racing. And I think he's going to have a very, very good year. I think sort of Richard Childress Racing is a lot more energized than what I've seen them in the past. And I think that's going to actually trickle down to Austin Dillon. I'll talk about that in a second. But I think Kyle Busch will find his way to a win this year and some consistency. Now, I would say about 1/3 of the list I just gave you could change, could flip with the drivers I'm about to talk about. Some might surprise us drivers, and it shouldn't even surprise us, right? Some of these are complete, flip of the coin, make it sort of situations and scenarios. But I think, it wouldn't surprise me if Suarez was in the playoffs. It wouldn't surprise me if Austin Dillon, with Kyle Busch and sort of this re-energizing of RCR, would make it in. It wouldn't surprise me if Bubba Wallace made it in there. He's shown on fast tracks, he's shown some speed. Kansas, he did really great. Speedways, you've got to pay attention to him. And I think Brad Keselowski is on this list, and Chris Buescher. I think year 2, you make some incremental improvements all last year, and you just continue that this year. And I think, even though they didn't have a great showing at the Clash, I think they'll be pretty good. So those are my sort of wild cards, right? Suarez, Dillon, Bubba Wallace, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher. I want to throw in some rookies, but it's just so hard. That first year is so hard to translate over for Gregson or say Gibbs. But I guess it wouldn't surprise me if they found some success, if they pulled a sneaky win out somewhere. But it's a long season, a hard season, and they're racing against talent like they've never raced against before. My championship 4, way too soon championship 4, is Hamlin, Busch, Larson, and Elliott. Again, anything can happen in the playoffs. So any of those guys, you have 2 bad races and you're in trouble in the playoffs, even if you have a fantastic year. So who knows? But those are my picks. I think, and this is sort of, I'm a little biased here, but I think Larson's going to pull it out for the championship this year. Now, Daytona 500 pick, Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney's my guy for the Daytona 500. He was close last year. Ford's had something going on early last year. They have the redesigned hoods and slightly redesigned bodies this year, which not been talked about a whole lot. I'm interested to see how that works at this track. I heard Denny Hamlin talking about, the Fords have sort of less drag, which will be good for qualifying for high speed tracks and for Daytona. So we'll just see about. I think the Fords are going to do good at the speedways early on this year. Um, so we'll see. We'll see. Um, Side notes about Daytona. Besides, I think Ryan Blaney's gonna win it. I think the Fords are gonna do well. I desperately hope that Jimmy Johnson, Travis Pastrana, and Connor Daly make it to the 500. How fun that that's just such a good group of people to have in the sport, to have in this race. It's going to draw, even if it's just a couple of thousand different fans to the sport. I think it'd be brilliant for Travis Pastrana and Connor Daly to make it, and just to have Jimmy Johnson back is fantastic. He's back where he belongs, and you know that's it. That This is the start of the season. I'm excited, and I can't believe we don't get to see more practice. Like, it's so hard to figure out the Daytona 500 without seeing them practice and qualify. We have the shootouts and things like that. So without seeing anything, this is best I can do, but I'm excited. So let's go racing. Thank you for listening today, and you have yourself a great day. See you next time.